Who is they? Hey crew, this is Future editing me, and I just wanted to explain that this is part 2 of the airport standby days video that came out last week. If you haven't seen that, stop right here. I'll link it for you to watch. And if not, stay tuned to see the remainder of my on-call 3-day block experience. So let's get into the video. Previously on. Cool, no problem. I don't work here. And unfortunately, I did not get a seat. Are you sure? Hey crew, please excuse my appearance. It is 7:15 p.m. You heard me correctly, and I have not been called. So this is day 2 of 3 of being on call, and I am number 2 in line to be called for a 2-day trip because I'm only good for 2 days, today and tomorrow. Nothing as of yet, knock on wood. I'm not jinxing myself. But for tomorrow, I'm number 3 to be called, and I just went ahead and preferenced the trip because I would like to commute home tomorrow because I only have 2 days off, and then I'm on call again for another 3 days. So I preference an Orlando turn. So let's pray and put out positive energy that everyone behaves because both flights are full. It looks like coming back to JFK tomorrow, we're oversold. So yeah, as of right now, I have the Orlando turn and it signs in around 6:40 in the morning tomorrow. So that's my update for you. I'll come back again tonight if anything changes, but if not, I will see you guys in the morning. Good morning, crew. I am on the plane, obviously, as you can see. We're going to Orlando, and yeah, that's about it. So I'll probably speak to you guys again once we get to Orlando. So see you in the next clip. Hey crew, so we have just made it to Orlando, but we were rerouted, so I'm not going back to JFK now. We are heading to Boston. So thank you. Have a good one. So now we are changing aircrafts to go to our next plane and go to Boston. So I'll speak to you guys again once I get to Boston. Hey crew, so I am in Boston. I just finished my trip. I was approved for my deviation, which is basically being able to find my own way home, especially since I don't live in New York. So I am now trying to get to another terminal to see if I can get on them to go home. So I don't know Boston like that, and this seems like a maze. So we'll see. Every day like a birthday, things come, don't wait up. But don't wait too long. Don't sleep, you gotta stay up. Don't sleep, you gotta stay up. Hey crew, so it's obviously the next day after finishing my 3 on-call days, and I know yesterday I was so tired, so I'm pretty sure my little crew debriefing made no sense, so we're going to try it again. We had 2 flights yesterday. Initially, it was supposed to be an Orlando turn out of JFK, but I ended up getting rerouted, and we went from JFK to Orlando, Orlando to Boston, and then was supposed to deadhead from Boston back to New York. I end up going home from Boston, being released, and being able to go home. So the first flight, JFK to Orlando, we didn't have that much problems. We only had one lady who her bag was tagged. She volunteered to tag her bag. So she came down, had the tag on her bag. The lead flight attendant was like, oh, your bag stays right there where the other tag bags were. And she's like, no, they told me that you said I could leave it, bring it on the plane. And we're looking at her like, who is they? And we're like, no, ma'am, unfortunately, you have a tag on your bag, so it has to be checked. And she kind of made a big stink about it. But she complied, and when the gate agent came down, we also confirmed she said she volunteered to check her bag, and she boarded early because she volunteered to check the bag. So That's the only thing that happened on that flight. Now, Orlando to Boston was eventful. So we were flying on an Airbus 321, and for those of you who don't know, that aircraft, we have mid-cabin jump seats, and that basically means that we are sitting next to passengers. So typically on aircrafts, you know, the flight attendants either sit in the front of the plane or the back of the plane, but there are aircrafts where you sit in the middle. A lot of wide body, which means two aisles, you sit in the middle for some jump seats, and for the A321, which is a narrow body aircraft, you sit mid-cabin. So I was sitting at door 2, and obviously there's passengers in this seat that are sitting next to me. We're sitting, and the passenger who was sitting next to me kept kicking me with her foot while she kept crossing her leg. Now, common decency to me is, you know, the first time you do it, you say, oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. Or even if you don't notice, but multiple times, you know that you're hitting something and you're not doing anything about it. So the flight continued on, and now it's time to sit down for landing. And once again, she's kicking me with her foot. Now this time I was like, you know, I've had enough. I'm going to say something. I was like, can you please put your foot down, because you've constantly kicked me while I've been sitting in my seat. And she had an attitude and just crossed her foot to the other direction. But it's like, hello, I'm a human being too. Why do you feel like it's okay to put your foot on someone? And you know you're kicking me because I keep moving my leg, and you keep moving your leg farther to where my leg is to kick me. Like, don't do that. Sorry, you guys, my memory is pretty bad, so I have like a list of stuff I wanted to talk to you about on my phone. I have a public service announcement for passengers. Please do not put your hands on anything you see on the cart. Number 1, you can ask if you would like a napkin, if you would like a stir stick, if you would like extra sugar, just ask, and we will be more than happy to hand it to you. Number 2, it's unsanitary. We wear gloves during service for a reason, and you putting your hands on stuff that now has to be served to other passengers is not sanitary. So I had a passenger trying to dig his hand onto the cart, and I was like, sir, please do not touch the cart. He's like, I want a napkin. Okay, well, that's fine. If you want a napkin, you can ask me and I would hand you the napkin, but please don't put your hands on the cart. I like to think of it in the way of, if I came to your office or your job, depending on what profession you're in, and I start touching everything that I have no business touching, you would have something to say, or you would feel some type of way about that. So don't do it at my job, you know? And the next thing that has been happening a lot is passengers trying to hand us their garbage while we're doing service. I know that sometimes it's someone's first flight. They may not know the ins and outs of the planes and how service happens. And each airline service is different. So if they fly a particular airline, they may do their service different than the airline that I work for. That's fine. That's cool. But if I tell you that I cannot collect the trash right now and we'll be back to collect it after we are finished doing our service, that should suffice for an explanation as to why I can't take it right now. You not accepting that is where the problem is. I cannot put trash on a beverage cart or a food cart that I'm now serving to other people. I don't know how else to say that. And that's what I kept encountering. This passenger literally got up out her seat, came down the aisle while we're doing service, and I felt something like behind my back. So I turned around and she's like this close to my face, trying to push her trash onto me. And I'm like, no, we are not collecting trash right now. I need you to go sit back down. Once we finish service, we will come and collect your trash. And it seemed like she didn't want to accept that answer, but yesterday was just sort of bizarre. Now the last story, you guys, I promise this is it. I'm not going to be rambling anymore. And this is all happening on one flight. We've landed in Boston. The boarding doors open. Passengers are getting their bags, deplaning. I'm saying my thank yous. Have a nice day. It's the norm. Now, typically on a flight, you know, it goes by rows. The first row gets their bags, the second row, and so on and so forth. So this row was the row behind my jump seat, and the gentleman is getting up to get his bag. He opens the overhead bin, and all of a sudden this girl comes out of nowhere and literally pushes this man out of the way. It's like, are you serious? Get out of my way, like cursing and yelling. And I'm in shock. I'm looking at the passenger who got pushed. I'm looking at the passenger who pushed the other passenger, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. So as she walks away, I'm like, you are ridiculous. Why do you think that's acceptable to push another person? And I apologize to the passenger who got pushed. Even another passenger apologized for that girls' behavior. It was just crazy. Like, I don't understand what's going on. That is it for my stories of day 3 of 3 of being on call. I have 2 days off, and then we are on call again for another 3 days. But if you've made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. And as always, stay safe and see you soon.